The shipment of shadows, the slave ship moved slowly through the cold darkness of space. Its outer hull was old, covered in scratches from asteroid dust and forgotten battles. Inside, the air was dry and heavy, filled with quiet whispers and tired breathing. Metal doors slammed shut as another batch of slaves was pushed into the holding area. Kai, a human mechanic, stood near the corner of the cargo bay. He was tall, with oil-stained hands and tired eyes. He didn't wear a uniform like the guards. He just fixed things. Doors, vents, circuits. But Kai also noticed things. And today something felt wrong. The new slaves were lined up in rows. Most looked thin, scared, and broken. They kept their heads down. They knew resistance only brought pain. But one figure stood out to Kai. She was quiet like the rest. But her posture was different. She didn't slouch. Her back was straight. Her eyes weren't empty. They watched everything. She wore the same gray uniform as the others. Dirt was smeared across her face. Her silver hair was hidden under a hood. But her skin had a glow that didn't match the dull lighting of the ship. Kai kept watching her. Move, a guard shouted, hitting a slave with the shock rod. The girl didn't flinch at the sound. That was the second thing that caught Kai's attention. Most slaves reacted with fear, but not her. He checked the data tablet in his hand. It showed the list of new slaves, species, names, health. But when he looked for her, there was no record. Just a blank space. Unknown origin. No name. That was the third strange thing. Kai walked slowly past her row. He acted like he was inspecting the air, vents above them. But his eyes watched her from the side. "You're not from any slave world, I know," he whispered under his breath. The girl's eyes moved toward him for a second. No fear, just silence. As he passed, Kai saw something small on her wrist. It looked like a tattoo half hidden under the dirty sleeve, but it wasn't a slave mark. It was a symbol, sharp lines forming a circle with 3 points inside. Kai's heart skipped a beat. He had seen that symbol once before, years ago, during a repair mission on the Veltheron Royal Cruiser. It was a symbol of royalty. No one else noticed. Not yet. Kai kept walking, forcing himself to breathe normal. But in his mind, alarms were ringing. What is a royal doing here, he wondered. Why is she hiding among slaves? Later that night, he returned to the holding bay. It was dark. Most slaves were asleep or too tired to move. The girl sat alone near the far wall, away from the others. He approached her slowly. "I know who you are," he said softly. She looked up. Her eyes were calm but sharp. "No," she whispered. "You only think you do." "I saw the mark," Kai replied. "You're Veltheron." She didn't answer. "Why are you here?" he asked. She looked around. "Because they would force me to be something I don't want to be." Kai crouched down. "You escaped," he said, "from your own empire." "I escaped from a prison made of gold," she whispered, "and now I'm in a cage of rust." Kai looked at her, truly looked at her. She was tired but not broken, proud but silent. This was no ordinary Runaway. This was a message waiting to explode. "They'll find you," Kai said. "If I noticed, others will too." "Then don't let them know," she replied. For a moment, silence sat between them like a wall. "What's your name?" he asked. "I don't have one here," she said. "Names have power." He stood up. "Then stay nameless. But don't act like a queen. If you want to survive, blend in." She nodded slowly. "And what about you, human? Why do you care?" Kai hesitated. Then he said, "Because I've seen what the Empire does to people like you, and I've seen what it does to people like me. Maybe it's time someone did something different." He turned to leave, but she spoke again. "Kai," she said. He looked back. "That's your name." "I remember." He froze. "How do you know that?" But she just leaned back against the cold wall, eyes closing. I remember more than you think. Kai left the cargo bay, his mind racing. He had just uncovered a secret that could change everything. But the question was, would he protect her or turn her in? Behind him, the girl finally let a tear fall from her eye. Not for fear, but for what she had lost, and for what was coming. She doesn't speak, but her silence screams. The next morning, the slave ship's engines growled low as it drifted past a dying moon. The stars outside blinked like cold eyes watching from the dark. Inside the metal belly of the ship, the temperature dropped. The prisoners shivered, curled into themselves for warmth. But she didn't shiver. Kai stood on the upper catwalk of the slave bay pretending to fix a broken light. His hands moved, but his eyes never left her. The girl with silver hair. The nameless one. The hidden royal. She sat still, staring at the floor like she was counting the metal lines beneath her. Her silence wasn't normal. It wasn't fear or shock. It was control. And in this place, control was more dangerous than any weapon. Kai had seen hundreds of slaves over the years. Broken, hollow, hopeless. But she didn't have hollow eyes. Her silence screamed louder than all their cries. And it was only a matter of time before someone else noticed. He walked toward the maintenance hall, mind spinning. He needed to act fast. The symbol on her wrist, he'd checked it again last night in the ship's database. It matched a hidden code used only by Veltheran royalty. She wasn't just a noble, she was a direct heir, someone who could start a war just by breathing the wrong way. As he turned the corner, a voice stopped him. "Mechanic!" Kai flinched. It was Officer Drelk, the head of slave control. He was a tall, red-skinned brutac with a cruel smile and a worse temper. He wore a long coat covered in medals from campaigns that should have never happened. "Yes, sir?" Kai asked, trying to sound bored. "You were in the slave bay longer than your repair time," Drelk growled. "Any reason?" Kai swallowed. Ventilation grid was jammed. Had to do a full override. Drelk stepped closer. "You didn't speak to any of them, did you?" Kai kept his face blank. "I don't talk to cargo." The officer stared at him. For a moment, then grunted. "Good. These ones are different. There's a presence, especially one of them." Kai tensed. "A presence? You'll know her when you see her. Too quiet, too clean, eyes too proud. I've seen queens fall, and this one smells like one." Kai forced a smile. "You saying there's a princess in the slave pit?" Drelk's eyes narrowed. "I'm saying if there is, she won't live long." He walked off. Kai turned, heart pounding. They know. Or at least, they suspect. He rushed back to the repair room and closed the door behind him. His breathing was heavy. He had to make a choice. Stay out of it, or get her out. That night, the ship shifted into sleep mode. Lights dimmed, patrols slowed. In the silence, Kai opened the vent panel near the slave bay. He crawled through the narrow duct, quiet as a shadow. The cold metal pressed against his chest. When he reached the end, he peered through the grate. She was awake, sitting alone again, staring at the wall. He whispered through the vent, "You need to move. Now." She didn't look up. "Why?" "Because they suspect you. The officer wants to find you. If he does, they'll strip you and scan your blood." "Let them," she whispered. "They'll kill you," Kai snapped. "You think you're safe because you're silent? Silence is louder than screams in a place like this." She finally looked up. Her voice was soft. "Then what do you suggest, human?" Kai pushed the grate open and dropped into the bay. The other slaves were asleep. Only the hum of the ship filled the silence. He crouched in front of her. "There's a storage duct behind the back wall. I can hide you there for 2 cycles. After that, we'll be near a port where I can get you out." She shook her head. "I'm not leaving." Kai blinked. "What?" "Not until I see what's become of my people. Not until I see if they remember me. You'll die. Then let them kill me as a slave, not as a coward." Kai stood up. You're impossible. So are humans, she said quietly. Yet here you are, risking your life for someone you don't know. He stared at her. I know enough. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy. Fast. Kai froze. Guards. He grabbed her hand. Come with me. No. Trust me, he whispered. Something in his voice made her move. She followed him to the wall behind the slave racks. Kai opened a hidden latch and pulled her inside just as the bay doors hissed open. Drelk walked in with 2 guards. Search the rows, he barked. Check eyes, check marks. Find the proud one. The slaves stirred, confused. Frightened. Kai pressed a finger to her lips. Don't move, he mouthed. The next 10 minutes felt like hours. The guards yelled, dragged 2 females out, scanned them. Wrong ones. Drelk snarled. She's here. I can smell her defiance. Then, a strange thing happened. From the shadows of the cells, one of the oldest slaves stood up. A frail Thol warrior, bones thin, body weak. He pointed to another girl. There. She always looks at us like we're filth. The guards rushed and pulled her out. Kai looked back at the real princess. She was trembling now, but not from fear. From guilt. They were sacrificing one of their own to protect her. This can't go on, Kai whispered. You need to be more than hidden. You need to survive, she whispered back. I didn't come to survive. I came to remember who I really am. Escape plan for a queen. The slave ship drifted near the edge of dead space where old satellites spun in silence and forgotten battleships floated like graves. The stars here didn't shine the same. They blinked like the eyes of ghosts. Deep inside, the cargo bay. The smell of burnt wires and unwashed bodies hung heavy, but near the back wall behind a loose steel panel, a secret breath stirred. Kai sat crouched, his back against the cold metal, holding a small scanner in one hand. Beside him, the girl, the one no longer pretending to be just a slave, watched him with sharp, unreadable eyes. Your people gave everything for you, Kai said quietly, fixing the scanner. They pulled the guards away. Lied for you. One of them might be executed for that mistake. The girl didn't speak, but her fingers trembled slightly in her lap. You said you came to remember who you are, Kai added. But they're starting to forget what they're worth. She looked down. Her voice was barely a breath. I didn't ask them to protect me. You didn't have to, Kai snapped. You carry it in your bones. Royalty leaks out of your silence. She finally met his gaze. Then teach me how to be less. Kai shook his head. It's too late for that. They've started whispering. The others. They feel something. It's only a matter of time before Drelk figures it out. A pause. Then she asked, Why are you helping me? Kai laughed bitterly. You think I know? Maybe because I'm tired of being part of a machine that crushes people. Maybe because you looked at me like I was a person, not a servant. He glanced at the scanner. We don't have much time. In 2 cycles, the ship docks at Draxon Outpost. Once we're there, it's over. Full scans, full ident checks, you'll light up like a star. The girl leaned forward. What's the plan? Kai hesitated. Then he said, There's a maintenance shuttle attached to the underbelly of the ship. It's rarely used. I've been fixing its systems for months. I can make it fly. And if you help me reach it, I can launch it without alerting command. The blast will look like a fuel purge. We'll vanish into the noise. She tilted her head. We? Kai shrugged. You think I can stay after helping you escape? They'll pull out my eyes and feed me to the trackers. The girl nodded slowly. You said you wanted to stop being part of the machine. Now's your chance. Later that night, Kai moved through the service corridors with a stolen key card. Sweat dripped down his neck. He'd faked a repair order to get near the shuttle hatch. Behind him, the princess, now wearing a stolen guard's cloak, walked silently. She moved like a ghost, yet every step felt like thunder in his ears. When they reached the shuttle access panel, Kai froze. Red lights blinked above it. Damn it, he whispered. Someone's using the hangar. They pressed against the wall. A voice echoed from within. Officer Drelk. The new prisoner didn't match, he said angrily. She wasn't the royal, but someone is hiding her. Kai's stomach dropped. A second voice responded. Maybe the human mechanic. He's always around the slaves. Bring him in for questioning, Drelk snapped. The princess grabbed Kai's arm. You need to run. Kai shook his head. Not without you, she whispered. They'll kill you before they find me. Then we waste their time together, Kai replied. Come on. They turned and ran. Down the long corridor, past darkened cells and forgotten doors, until they reached an old water purification unit. Kai slammed the emergency hatch open and pulled her inside. Above them, alarms started to echo. He checked the control panel. They've locked the shuttle systems. Can you override it? She asked. Maybe, he said, but not from here. She placed her hand on his. I trust you. Kai froze. It was the first time she'd touched him without fear. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed nearby. Kai turned off the light and whispered, Don't speak. Through the narrow vent slats, they saw two Brutak guards walk past, scanning the hall with red light eyes. We know she's still on board, one growled. Officer Drelk says she's using help, a traitor's here. Kai held his breath. The princess didn't move. When the guards passed, Kai exhaled slowly. We can't wait anymore, she whispered. Tell me the truth. Is there another way? Out? Kai hesitated. There is. The waste chute. What? It drops to the exterior hull. Most things burn in space, but there's a decompression tunnel used to launch small waste units. If I can trigger it at the right time, we'll be ejected, she said, into open space. He nodded. But I can set the shuttle to auto-dock and pick us up. It's risky. She smiled for the first time. Risk is the price of freedom. An hour later, they stood at the edge of the chute. Kai adjusted the control pad on his wrist. 30 seconds after launch, the shuttle will lock onto us. If we miss the window, then we freeze, she said simply. Yes, the sirens were louder now. Every corridor screamed with red lights. Guards were moving faster. Prisoners were yelling. The ship was waking up. Kai looked at her. You never told me your real name? She met his eyes, and for a moment, she looked like a queen again. Strong. Certain. Ariel, she whispered. My name is Princess Ariel of House Vetahara. Kai swallowed hard. It suits you. She stepped into the chute. He followed. Ready? He asked. I've never been more. He hit the trigger. A violent force launched them into space. Darkness swallowed them. Stars burned above, cold wrapped around their skin like knives. But just before Kai blacked out, he saw it. A shape in the void. Sleek. Metallic. Opening like arms. The shuttle. The revolt begins. The escape of the human mechanic and the nameless slave girl shattered something inside the ship. It was silent at first. A silence filled with confusion, then whispers, then the sound of boots pounding steel. Kai and Princess Ariel were gone, but their presence had lit a fire behind. Back in the slave bay, alarms flashed red across every wall. Guards screamed into their comms. Officers scrambled for answers. The vent shafts were searched. The floors scanned. Even the air was tested for traces of escape routes. Officer Drelk stood at the center of it all, his eyes burning like coals. Seal all exits, he shouted. Lock the outer hull. Track oxygen spikes. Find them. They couldn't have vanished. His assistant, a slim alien named Rel, tapped on a data screen. Sir, there's no trace of them inside the ship anymore. Drelk's voice dropped into a growl. Then they're outside, and that means someone helped them get there. He turned toward the slave pens. Wake them all. Metal gates slammed open. Blinding lights flashed on. Slaves blinked, shielding, their eyes, their bodies tense. But something was different now. Something had changed. They had seen it. They had seen the girl who walked like a queen, and the human who treated her like she mattered. They had seen her touch his hand without fear. They had heard the whisper of her name passed between bunk beds and hushed lips. Ariel. A name banned, yet now floating through the shadows like a ghost. And now, she was gone. Gone in a way no slave had ever gone before. 3 hours later, the slave named Taro stood up. He was a Thole warrior, his body bent from years of labor, his skin lined with scars. He had once served as a bodyguard for a king, before the Empire burned his world. He looked at the others. They escaped, he said. A human and one of us. The others listened. They escaped because he believed in her, and because she remembered who she was. Some of the younger slaves nodded. Taro raised his voice. They will come for us now, to punish us, to test us, to bleed us for helping them, even if we didn't. He pointed at the cameras above. But if we are to suffer, let it mean something. A younger alien female missing one eye asked, "What do we do?" Taro stepped forward and pulled a small piece of metal from his pocket. Sharp, rusted, still deadly. We stopped being afraid. Meanwhile, outside the ship, a miracle unfolded. Kai floated unconscious, arms limp, breath shallow inside his suit. Frost gathered on his cheeks. His heartbeat slowed. Beside him, Princess Ariel's eyes fluttered open. She was freezing. Her skin was blue under her armor. But she saw the light. A small, unregistered shuttle hovered above them, silent as a whisper. Kai's autodock beacon blinked on his wrist. The system recognized the pair and began to pull them in. The moment the shuttle doors closed, heat filled the chamber. Oxygen hissed. Suits unlocked. Kai gasped and coughed hard as life returned to his lungs. He looked over. "We made it?" Ariel smiled weakly. "For now." But on the main screen of the shuttle, an alert flashed. Emergency lockdown. Slave ship Vexora in red status. Civil disruption reported. Ship-wide revolt in progress. Kai sat up. "What?" Ariel stared. "They're rising." Back on the Vexora, chaos erupted. A group of older slaves had broken the lock on the storage cell and found tools. Metal rods, broken wiring, sharpened scrap. When the guards returned to punish them, they found resistance. Fists met armor. Rods struck skulls. The first guard went down with a cry that echoed through every corner of the bay. The slaves didn't run this time. They fought. Taro grabbed the shock rod from a fallen brutak and turned it against another. A zap lit the room and the second guard collapsed. One of the prisoners hacked into the power grid and shut off the lights. Suddenly, the ship was dark again. Only fire from burning wires lit the hall, and in that flickering orange glow, the slaves moved like shadows, silent, angry, free. In the control room, Drelk was losing control. "They're rioting," Riel cried. "Deck 5 is overrun. The prisoners have armed themselves. Seal the bay," Drelk ordered. "We can't." Someone disabled the magnetic doors. Drelk's fists slammed into the console. "I want every single slave dead. I want the traitor's name. Find me the one who started this." Riel hesitated. "Sir, it wasn't one of them." Drelk turned. "What did you say?" "It was her," Riel said. "The girl, the one who disappeared. She wasn't just a slave. She was the symbol. The spark." Drelk's mouth opened in horror. "No," he whispered. "It can't be. She was royal?" Riel nodded slowly. She was. On the shuttle, Ariel stood near the window watching the distant flashes from the slave ship. Kai finished bandaging his arm. "You know what this means, right?" She nodded. "They need help." "We go back?" he asked. "No," she said. "We send a message." Kai tilted his head. "To who?" "To everyone," she whispered. "My people, your people, the ones who think the Empire can't fall." She walked over to the console and accessed the comm link. Kai stared. "You're risking everything." "No," Ariel said. "I'm claiming everything." She began recording. "This is Princess Ariel of House Vetahara," she said. "I was born to rule, but not over chains. Her voice was steady, strong. I walked among the slaves. I saw their pain, and now I stand with them. Kai watched her with awe. If you hear this message, she continued, know that the fire has started, and it will not be put out. Not by guns, not by silence. She ended the recording. Kai asked, where should we send it? She looked him in the eyes. Everywhere. Bloodline betrayal. The message from Princess Ariel spread faster than anyone expected. In the depths of the Empire, where broadcasts were tightly controlled and rebellion was punished with death, her voice broke through. It came through smuggled devices. It slipped into military channels. It played from hacked terminals in mining colonies and warships. I was born to rule, but not over chains. The words weren't loud, but they echoed like thunder across stars. On the slave ship Vexora, her voice sparked courage. Prisoners who had never spoken now roared with fire. On the military base orbiting Carvus Prime, a young soldier paused his patrol, listening with wide eyes. And deep in the royal citadel of the Veltharan Empire, a single word echoed like a slap to the face. Ariel. In the throne chamber, Prince Leor stood in silence. He was tall, with dark silver armor and eyes, like winter storms. Beside him stood advisors, warlords, generals, and none dared speak, because on the giant hollow screen his sister's face glowed. She didn't look like the soft child he remembered. She looked like fire in human shape. The message ended. Leor turned, slowly to the room. Find her, he said. No emotion, just pure command. Your Majesty, a general said carefully. It's spreading too fast. We're losing control of... Leor raised a hand. Silence fell again. He walked to the window, looking out at the great towers of their empire. When a star tries to burn alone, he said, you smother it, before it becomes a sun. Hours later, a sleek, deadly ship left the Empire's fleet dock. It was called the Obsidian Wing, and it was not meant for transport. It was meant for execution. Leor had chosen the mission himself. He would bring his sister back in chains or in ashes. In the stolen shuttle, Kai sat at the pilot's seat while the hum of space surrounded them. He looked back at Ariel, who was watching the stars like they held old memories. You've been quiet, he said. I just started a war, she replied softly. I'm thinking about the cost. Kai leaned forward. You didn't start the war. Your people did, when they put slaves in cages and called it peace. Ariel turned to him. My blood built that empire. Kai nodded. Maybe, but now your blood can tear it down. Suddenly the ship's warning lights blinked red. Incoming vessel, Kai muttered. Fast, heavy armor. Military grade. Ariel stood up. Can you identify it? Kai tapped the screen. A single word flashed. Obsidian Wing. Her face changed. My brother's ship, she whispered. Kai stared at her. He's here? Yes, she said. And he won't come to talk. The Obsidian Wing's communication line opened. Prince Leor's voice came through, cold and sharp like a blade. Princess Ariel, surrender now. You will be shown mercy, she answered with calm. Is that what you call what you did to the colonies? Mercy? A pause. Then Lyre replied, you are sick with rebellion. You need cleansing. I'm not sick, she said. I'm awake. You abandoned your duty. No, she snapped. I chose it. Leor's tone turned dangerous. Return with me now, or I will make you watch your human ally die first. Kai raised an eyebrow. Friendly family you've got. Ariel didn't laugh. She stepped forward and opened the shuttle's full channel. To everyone listening, she said, the Prince of Velthara threatens to kill a man who saved his sister, who gave food to the hungry, who fought not for glory but for freedom. Kai looked at her, stunned. Ariel's voice grew stronger. This is the Empire's face. Not strength, not justice. Fear. Fear of one girl and one mechanic. Then she ended the transmission and looked Kai in the eyes. "We don't run," she said. Kai took a deep breath. "Okay," he replied. "But we don't win in a fight either. That ship could destroy us in seconds." "Then we don't fight with guns," she whispered. "We fight with truth." Kai frowned. "What does that mean?" "We show them," she said. "We open the doors." Moments later, the stolen shuttle broadcasted a live stream across 5 sectors. Kai hacked into old channels using ship fragments and pirate codes, and Ariel, princess of an empire, fugitive of her own blood, stood in front of the screen. But she wasn't alone. Behind her were freed slaves from the Vixora, now hiding inside escape pods and secret ships that had joined their cause. Young, old, wounded, proud. One by one, they told their stories. One by one, they said her name. Ariel. Kai watched from the side as the stream reached 1,000,000 eyes. On planets choked by empire mines, workers stood still, watching. On military ships, some soldiers paused their drills. A spark had become a blaze. Inside the obsidian wing, Prince Lear's face twisted with rage. "Shut it down," he growled. "We can't," an officer said. "It's on too many channels." Lear turned, his voice like thunder. "Fire on their ship." "But sir." "Do it." The shuttle shook violently. Alarm screamed. Kai grabbed the controls. Direct hit to outer hull, shields barely holding. Ariel looked at him. "You need to escape." "No way," Kai said. "Listen," she said. "If he kills me, he thinks it ends. But if you survive, you carry the message. So do you," he replied. Before she could answer, a second blast rocked the shuttle. Systems crashed. The stream went black. Silence. In the obsidian wing's control room, the screen flickered off. Lear stood still, breathing hard. "She's gone," someone whispered. But deep in the communication logs, one message kept pulsing. Transmitting. 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 Ariel's voice, caught in the final second of the stream. "I am not your prisoner. I am your reckoning. The price of freedom darkness. Not the kind of darkness you see when the lights go out. This was deeper, colder, like the inside of a dying star. Princess Ariel floated in it, weightless, breathless, still. Her body didn't move. Her heart beat faintly like a drum at the bottom of a sea. Outside the broken hull of the shuttle, pieces of metal spun silently through space. Blood floated beside her, tiny drops shining like red stars. The last thing she remembered was Kai, yelling her name. Then fire. Then silence. But now, her eyes opened. Slowly, painfully, inside the ruined shuttle, a few dim emergency lights blinked. Sparks crackled from shattered wires. Smoke hung in the air like fog. Alarms had stopped, as if even the ship had given up. Ariel tried to sit up. Her chest screamed in pain, but she forced herself to move, because one thought crushed every other. Kai. She turned her head. He was there, slumped, against the wall, body still, one arm twisted wrong. "No," she whispered. Her voice cracked. She crawled to him. His face was pale. A deep burn ran down his side. But his eyes were open just a little. She reached him, grabbed his hand. "Kai," she whispered. "Kai, look at me." His eyes blinked. Slow. Barely. Alive. He tried to speak, but only a cough came out. "You stayed," she said, tears slipping down her face. "I told you to go." His lips moved. "Not my style." Then he coughed again and stopped moving. "Kai?" she asked. No answer. Kai. Stillness. Terror filled her bones. But then, his chest moved. Shallow, but breathing. Alive. Barely. She stood up, trembling, and searched the wrecked shuttle. The power core was gone. Navigation systems. Dead. Long-range comms. Crushed. No way. To call for help. No way to fly. Just her. Kai. And cold, endless space. Her hands trembled. What could she do? She was born to command armies, but right now, she had nothing. No voice. No kingdom. Just one broken friend who gave everything to help her escape. And that's when she remembered something. Not from the Empire. From Kai. His stories. His strange human belief. Sometimes freedom isn't something you're given. It's something you bleed for. She looked at the control panel and made a decision. She pulled Kai's body into the cryopod. It was cracked but still functional. You saved me, she whispered. Now let me save you. She pressed a button. The pod hissed shut. Temperature dropped. Kai was frozen, but safe. For now. Then Ariel opened the floor hatch. Beneath it, a small capsule emergency beacon blinked softly. A last chance. She knelt over it, programmed it with one message. A message not just to the resistance, but to everyone. Then she cut her own wrist. Let her royal blood flow into the scanner. The beacon lit up. Locked. Ready. Her voice shook as she recorded. This is Princess Ariel. Our ship has been destroyed. Kai is injured. I have activated a blood seal. Beacon, if this reaches you, don't mourn me. Rise. She paused, then added softly, Kai, if you live, tell them I wasn't afraid. She pressed send. The beacon ejected, shooting into space, leaving behind a dying shuttle and a queen who chose to burn instead of bow. Far across space, in a small rebel ship drifting outside Empire borders, a light blinked on. A pilot, once a slave, now a fighter, saw the message, opened it, watched, listened, and whispered to herself. She's still fighting. On the Empire's capital world, Prince Leor sat in silence. His advisors brought him reports of revolt, of soldiers laying down weapons, of banners painted with the letter A for Ariel. His rage grew cold and dangerous. She's alive, he said. Impossible, an officer muttered. Leor turned his gaze. Then explain this. He threw the beacon message onto the table. The room went still. Prepare the purge fleets, Leor said. We burn every sector that speaks her name. But that will do it, he growled. I want the stars to forget she ever existed. But the stars did not forget. They remembered. And in secret corners of the galaxy, her name became a song, a warning, a promise. Days later, a rebel recovery team found the broken shuttle. Kai still, inside the pod, alive. They brought him aboard, hooked him to healing machines. When he opened his eyes, weak and aching, the first word out of his mouth was, Ariel. The medic looked down. She saved you. Kai turned his head. Where is she? The medic hesitated. Gone. Kai closed his eyes and wept. But the war wasn't over, because Ariel's message had reached millions. Slaves rose up in 10 systems. Soldiers defected, and in the shadows of forgotten planets, rebels gathered under one name, Queen of the Lost, Ariel. Kai, still healing, stood before the rebel council weeks later, scars on his face, anger in his voice. We fight, he said. For her, the crown falls, the people rise. The empire burned. Not in flames, not yet, but in silence, in stolen glances between soldiers, in whispered names carved into the sides of slave pens, in banners fluttering from the ceilings of rebel camps. One name, everywhere, Ariel, and with it another, Kai. Kai stood before the rebel command. His body was still healing. His left arm carried scars, deep and ugly. A mechanical brace supported his side. His voice was rough, but his eyes burned with purpose. She gave us time, he said. Now we use it. A large holomap floated in front of the council. Red dots showed Empire fleets. Blue ones were rebel hideouts, cells, small pockets of hope scattered across systems. We don't fight them head-on, Kai continued. We scatter their control, hit their supply routes, burn their comm stations. We make it impossible to breathe without hearing her name. An old Thol warrior spoke. You think her memory alone will bring victory? Kai looked him straight in the eye. No, he said, but it will bring unity, and unity wins wars. The council murmured. Then, slowly, they nodded, one by one. The first strike came in the mining moons of Sector 7 Delta. Slaves, once silent, rose and overpowered the guards. They wore torn uniforms and used stolen tools, but they fought like fire. They painted the wall with 3 words, for the Queen. The second came on a cargo ship near the Belt of Fire. A crew of human and alien defectors took over the ship, rerouted its cargo to rebel bases, and jettisoned the Imperial flag into space. The footage went viral. The Empire scrambled to control it. Too late. Prince Leor sat in his private chamber. Screens surrounded him, each showing a different rebellion. She's, gone, he growled, and still they rise. An officer approached carefully. Sir, perhaps we should slow our attacks. Talk to some of the leaders. Offer. Leor's hand snapped forward, and the officer's body flew across the room, smashing into the wall. Blood dripped. Leor stood over him, his voice low. There is no peace. Oh, there is only obedience. But outside that chamber, in the vast dark galaxy, obedience was dying. Kai led the largest mission himself, a strike on Carrion 1, the Empire's old weapons factory. Hundreds of rebels gathered under cover of darkness. Kai stood before them. He wore no armor, no crown, just a dark jacket, and Ariel's blood seal pendant around his neck. She believed we were worth saving, he said. So now we prove her right. The crowd raised their fists. A young girl once. A slave shouted, "For the Queen!" They echoed it, "For the Queen!" And charged. The battle was brutal. Lasers lit up the sky. Explosions tore through the walls. Kai fought on the front line, dodging fire, helping others. They reached the main control tower. He climbed, breathless, bleeding, until he reached the top, and there, he faced Prince Leor. Not through a screen. In person. Leor stood in shining black armor, blade in hand. Kai stood with nothing but a pulse rifle and broken ribs. Leor sneered. You wear her pendant like you deserve. But Kai didn't flinch. I do. Leor stepped closer. You're a mechanic. A nothing. Kai raised his head. She saw me. That's more than you ever did. Liar struck. They fought. Blade against rifle, strength against will. Kai was no soldier, but he had one thing Liar didn't. He had pain. Real pain. The kind that shapes you. Kai dodged, blocked, took a slice to the side, but got in close, and drove the butt of the rifle into Lior's helmet, hard. The prince fell stunned. Kai stood over him, panting. You lost, he said. Leor laughed, blood on his lips. You think killing me will end it? Kai shook his head. No. He turned, faced the tower's main console, and broadcasted one final message across the stars. His voice played everywhere. This is Kai. I'm not a prince. I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who saw someone choose freedom over fear. He held up Ariel's pendant. She gave us this. Not with guns, not with titles, with courage. And now we carry it. Not for revenge, for hope, for her. He paused, looked straight into the camera. The crown has fallen. Now we rise. The empire cracked. Soldiers refused orders. Slaves took over their prisons. Ships defected. Planets declared independence. And the name Ariel was no longer just a whisper. It was a banner, a symbol, a movement. Weeks later, in a quiet corner of the liberated zone, Kai stood under the stars. He looked up, holding a small metal piece in his hand. The pendant. He closed his eyes. You're not gone, he said. You're everywhere, a voice behind him whispered. Not quite everywhere. He froze, turned, and saw her, Ariel, alive, standing there, weak, scarred, but real. He blinked. You, what, how? She smiled. The beacon reached an old friend. They pulled me from the wreck. Kai rushed to her, held her. Tears fell from both their eyes. You died, he said. I almost did. she whispered. But freedom wouldn't let me go. They stood there, hand in hand, beneath a sky once ruled by a crown, now free because of one runaway princess and one human who refused to flinch. The end.